Hello.
Hey,
We did it. Yay.
we're
Oh,
here.
that was
We're
cool.
live.
Yes, we are here and we are live. And thank you, Karen, for joining us. So I have a double screen setup. So periodically I'll be looking to the side and then looking back here so I can keep an eye on the chat.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Thank you so much for doing this. And
Yes. I'm
it's
excited to be
been,
here.
yes, it's a lot. It's been fun to learn the process, and you're an excellent teacher. I'll have
Oh,
to say, and I'm very excited to have some time with you today. And
yes.
I thought maybe, for those people that don't know you or anyone who is watching back later on the replay, maybe you can introduce yourself, tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, this is really exciting to be here because I love that this is your first live collab and you did it. You're on StreamYard, and StreamYard is so much fun. I think honestly you'll get a lot of use out of it. Whether you're inviting guests on your channel or just utilizing it for its tools, I think that you're going to get a lot of use out of it. So that's really exciting and good job. Um, Yeah, so who am I? Well, I'm Ange, and my channel here on YouTube is Roots and Waves. And yeah, I offer live readings on my channel. I read in a layered fashion with tarot, oracle, and charms. And I also have a bi-weekly show called Beyond the Veil that I do with Spiritual Rain. She's another YouTuber here on YouTube. It's a mix of psychology and tarot, so that's a lot of fun that we've been doing. And then I also offer like walkthroughs of decks, and I do plan on doing a lot more with my channel in terms of introducing new series for different topics such as grief and things like that. There'll be happier topics than grief, but grief just so happens to be a topic that is near and dear to my heart. So I'm excited about that. And really, I've just sort of gotten back into YouTube. I've been away for quite a bit for personal reasons, but it's good to be back. And I'm really happy to connect with new people such as yourself. And it's a growing community, and I'm always happy to branch out and continue to deepen my tarot practice and studies and have friends to do that along with, because I don't have that in real life. I don't have that in, this is real life, but I don't have that in person. So it's really nice to be able to just turn the screen on and have that available. So
Well, I have to say, I really appreciate the diversity that is your channel. And that's something that I'm striving for on mine as well. I love to do a little bit of everything on the channel.
yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And running a channel and doing all the things and the filming and the editing and all the associated things, right? That takes a lot of time. So it has to be something that you love to do, because
Mhm.
that's what brings like the pleasure or the enjoyment
Yeah.
of doing it.
Yeah.
So I love that aspect, and because of it, I've been able to meet a bunch of new people. It's been a lot of fun. Now, I sat in on one of your lives, the one that you do with Rain,
Mhm.
and I wasn't able to watch it live, but I caught it on the replay, and I was obsessed. As soon as I listened to like the first 5 minutes, I was like, no, I have to stop and go back, because I think the topic was like emotional intelligence.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Mhm.
Yes, and then you had one series and you had to kind of go back and do a second one to be able to finish all the content.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I have to go back. I have to go back and listen to that first one. And oh, it was so good. It was long, right? Because I think each one was
Yes.
3 hours.
Yeah, so when we originally, like, I came up with this idea, and then I knew Rain would be the perfect partner, co-host, because she loves psychology, and so do I. And tarot is a psychological tool in my mind. I mean, some people don't utilize it that way, but I very much see it as that. And when we first put the show together, we weren't really thinking we would be on for 3 hours at a time. So what we did is we just took all this information and broke it up. So now pretty much all of our lives are broken up into 2 different episodes for one topic, because otherwise we'd be on there for like 6 hours and nobody's going to be there for a 6-hour live. And we want people to be able to digest the information that we're giving, because, some of it is, sort of scholarly, it's textbook, some of it. And then we put our own spin on things and put our own personality into it. And of course, we bring the tarot into it, which I think is like the best part, where we pull cards that we feel represent the topic that we're covering and why we think that. And recently we've added journal prompts now. So we're offering journal prompts, and yeah. And then at the end of the show, we offer a couple of free readings with a question that we formulate around the topic. So it's fun. It's a lot of work to put it together in terms of piecing the information, because it has to be accurate information. We can't just make it up. And
Mhm.
but I think it's very informative. I've learned a lot myself just by doing the research. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I don't see the comments here in StreamYard, so I'm just gonna come over here because I think Karen.
I
Karen,
yes,
hey
I
girl.
see I see the comments in YouTube, but I am not seeing them in StreamYard.
Yeah, I'm not either. That's really weird. Um. Oh. Hmm. It just says YouTube doesn't support comments on private videos. This isn't private, is it?
I don't know how it could be.
How would that
How could this
happen?
be? How could
How
this
could this
be?
be? I don't think so.
All right. Well,
Like
I'll
Karen's here
take
and Dancing Soul Sister, so it can't be private. Anyway, don't worry about that. We can see the
okay.
comments in YouTube. So, Karen, you asked a question somewhere. Oh, Ange, is that a Walk the Line t-shirt? Oh, this is my Johnny Cash t-shirt. Yes, 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 yes. Johnny Cash.
Oh my
Fun
gosh.
fun
Tell
fact
me.
about Johnny Cash is a relative of my husband's side of the family. So yeah, he's let's see. So how does this work? My my husband's grandfather, Johnny Cash, would have been his second or third cousin kind of thing. So like, removed, like not immediate family, but
Mm.
still pretty cool. When they would have family reunions, they would, of course, invite, well, everybody was invited their family, but Johnny would play, back in the day. But then he got famous and family wasn't important, so he kind of faded away. But I mean,
Mm.
he had his own things going on. If anybody knows the story of Johnny Cash, he had a lot going on, that boy. But just a really talented musician. And yeah, I have a huge picture on my wall with his platinum album, and so he very much is part of our energy. Like I talk to him, and just like any other ancestor, I definitely do. And it's pretty cool. Yeah. So
That's funny that you say that because my mother was obsessed with Johnny Cash. And
ooh,
so she had a collection of, I'm going way back here, 8 tracks,
hmm, yeah,
right? Those square things.
yeah, that you
She
push
had
into.
every one, and I always remember that like she was obsessed with one, like a Latin singer, but she was also obsessed with Johnny Cash, and so there were countless of those, things. And
Yeah.
I would play with them. I would play with them, build little, try to stack them up like dominoes and build little
Oh yes.
I
I mean,
certainly
the
don't
perfect. I
remember
remember my
like
grandfather had those, and he had an 8-track player like in his garage, and the garage was kind of like the set, like we hung out and stuff. But he'd get so
mhm.
mad because he'd be playing like his old country twang and tunes. And we'd go in there as kids, being kids, and we'd like turn off the 8-track and put on the radio and put on like, whatever music we were listening to at that age. And he's like, "Who's messing with my with my 8 tracks?" We're like, "Grandpa, put the radio on."
That's that's hilarious. We didn't have a player. I don't think we had a player. So I made use of those cassettes my one way or the other. They're not cassettes. What are they called again?
8 tracks, yeah.
8 tracks. Yes, I made use of them and I played with them, but that's hilarious. So Kieran has a question. Oh, I'm bummed out about the comments. I was hoping that we would be able to see them. But she asks, how did EQ become the abbreviation for emotional intelligence? Is it a play on IQ?
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's a really good question. Yes, we talk extensively in the live about the difference between EQ and IQ, and people sometimes confuse the two, but they're completely different. IQ is
Mm.
something that you're born with and that can't be changed, and EQ is something that you can learn and develop. And so that is a very good question. I'm not sure like the actual root of the word, but I'm definitely assuming that it has something to do with the correlation between the two words for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's say hi to some of our friends. So we have Dancing Soul Sister. Thank you so much for joining today. And Sandy Black, thank you. Very happy that you're able to join. Um, let me see here. Oh, I wish we could see the comments in here.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not letting you. That's weird.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, yeah. Um, it must be something with the settings somewhere. But that's okay. We're still happy that you're here. And by the way, even though we can't see the chat or pin the comments, we can still see them because
Yeah,
both of us are looking at them independently. So thank you so much for the engagement.
yeah.
It's much appreciated. Um, so, Ange, tell me, you were talking about how you enjoy reading layered. How did you
Mhm.
first decide that you wanted to tinker with it and think to yourself, I kind of like this?
Yeah. Yeah, so I've always been a person that sort of is constantly like connecting the dots and connecting the threads of things, Even when I was little and we'd be like driving, because we would drive from like Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Stevens Point, which is usually like a 3-hour drive up north, we called it. And
Mm,
even on the way, I would see like I'd be looking for little like, okay, let's say I see like a picture of like a bird on a semi truck passing, and then I would like be looking other places like, oh, hey, there's another bird. Okay, now what is this message? And so I was always making these stories up and connecting the dots, playing with little toys, like little Barbie accessories. And so I think like it really stemmed from like a young age. But once I started with oracle cards, I always had my little trinkets, and so I would layer them automatically. And then I started to learn tarot. At first I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about tarot. Like there's 78 cards, you got to learn them all. Like is it, I was kind of like I didn't know if I could do it. But once I sort of took the leap and got my first deck, I was like, oh, this isn't so bad, because once you break it down and like the elements and there's so many layers itself in tarot. And so that really and I'm a nerd like that. I love studying and and diving into things. So I had no
mhm.
problem with just doing all the things, getting all the books, learning all the knowledge. And honestly, like I believe as tarot readers, we're never ever fully educated on it. I think your tarot practice is an evolving thing. I think that you just constantly learn different things from different people, which is why I really enjoy following different readers out here, because we all have a different style. And sometimes people might show a card and share a meaning, and I'm like, hey, I never thought of that for the Seven of Swords or something like that.
Yes.
Seven of Swords can trip me up sometimes, but since I've been following people for years, I put different associations to it depending on the context of the reading. So back to layered readings, yeah, I just thought to myself, well, let's try it. Let's try Oracle and Tarot and charts. I thought this might be a little bit much, right? But I love it because it's very detailed, and it's unique. I don't really see too many people doing it, at least not that I've come across. And I know my readings take a little bit longer, and so therefore when I do offer them live on my channel, it takes longer, but that's just who I am. I've tried to do it other ways, and it just doesn't fit with me and how I read. Even when we're trying to do like free mini readings instead of paid readings, it's still not a mini reading. It still ends up being a full reading because I can't not. That's why Tom, I don't think he's here in the chat, but early ritual, he'll always poke fun at me. He's like, well, she takes forever because she pulls 15 cards and 20 charms. I'm like, Tom, but he's right. I mean, not that many, he's exaggerating, but Yeah, so I love the synchronicities of the symbolism that shows up. I love reading with other people on screen because then all of a sudden, like the symbolism's showing up in their cards. It's truly magical. It really is. I don't know another word for it. And then quite recently, within the last several months, like Karen of Care Bear Barden Cards, who's in the chat, she has started to really play around with her charms. And I just love that I found someone that can read with me that understands my style and wants to take their time with readings and puts up with all my shenanigans with the charms. So we've been having fun doing lives on both of our channels with that. And yeah, I plan to continue to explore it and expand it. I've got a lot of charms or trinkets that I have to somehow get rid of. I've got way too many. Even the bowl that I have, I need to pare it down a little bit. It's just that, I've been collecting these for like all my life, kind of, and it's just, they accumulate, and I don't need quite as many. I do like having a large collection, but I'm just looking over here because there's like a huge like Ziploc freezer bag full of them, and so I have to figure out a way to disperse them if people want to, I don't know, purchase a little starter kit or something. I just feel like more people need trinkets. I just want to sprinkle them everywhere. Here, you have some. You have
Mhm.
some.
That's so funny. I don't remember if it was you or Karen, but at one point somebody raised their bowl, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, it's huge!"
Yeah,
Uh,
I do have it here. I'll show you. Here. Ugh. It's heavy too. Yeah. It's like a
oh, it
serving.
just looks like yes, like a bowl of candy.
Yeah. I always keep this in it to keep
Oh
them
yeah.
cleared of their energy, but it's fun. Like it's here's like a little water cooler. I don't know. There's like umbrella. There's so many different weird things. There's dice
So
in here.
many. But I see what you mean though. It gets so many that it is harder to draw the ones that you're drawn to for particular readings.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I have a charm collection.
Ooh, girl.
It's like, I don't know, 0.01% of the size of yours.
Yes. Oh, that's so
So,
cool.
and I first started it, I don't remember why. I saw it somewhere and I was like, oh, that looks like fun. Maybe I could add that in. And then I first looked around my home, like what did I have that I
Yeah.
could add in and use that I already have. And then I picked up a few charms. I bought like a little thing from Amazon, and I also bought some from Emerald Lotus Divination
Yep.
because she does heavy charm casting, right?
Yeah, she does.
Um, yeah, so I bought some from her, and those were like super cool. I mean, obviously, no comparison to the ones that I got on Amazon, but the ones in Amazon was there were a lot of repeats and duplicates. So sometimes what I do is when I call decks and send them off to other homes, I put like a few in a little baggie and attach them to the deck and send them off to.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Recently, I sent a friend, actually Karen, I sent the Beetlejuice deck. And before I sent it off, I was like, wait, I can get rid of some of these trinkets. So I like ran in here and I was like, okay, whatever is going to call to Karen. I just dug my hand in there and I was like putting some in the in the thing. So it was cool when she took a picture when it arrived and the charms and the deck, and she's growing her charm collection. So do you think that you'll ever want to experiment with like reading with the charms with the cards, or maybe just reading with the charms by themselves? Some people just do that, or
I think what has happened is that I'm like spreading out. I used to like I have a reading table in my room, my little sanctuary where
Mm.
when I first was getting started, I did everything there. And as time has gone on and I've become more comfortable, I think this is really weird, right? Exposing my face, right?
Mhm.
Because in the beginning, when I first started filming, I never showed my face. I protected that aspect of myself on social media and I just didn't share. And as time goes on and I start doing more things, I notice that I start taking up more space in my own home.
Mhm.
So now I read here at this table a lot. I set up on my kitchen, counter, and I read there a lot. So I have like mini setups in 3 different places. The charms are in my bedroom. So really it's just a matter of grabbing them and pulling them, with me the next time. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll try that the next time
Yeah.
because I remember having a lot of fun with it. I did have a lot of charms, and I remember, getting some guidance like, oh, when you first get a charm, you should assign like a meaning to it when you get it and put it into your bin. And I immediately became overwhelmed because then, oh, if you have so many charms, how are you going to remember what each one, But then I was
Yeah,
like, that defeats the purpose of using your intuition.
that's it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Mhm.
The first piece of advice, well, the first piece of advice I give people who want to sort of add charms to their collection is just before you go out and buy some, which you will eventually, but before you do that, check, like you said, check around your house. I'm telling you, you'll find things around your house that are charms that you didn't even realize, like dice, playing dice. Sometimes we have that. Little clips off like the bread that have a date on them. Sometimes the numbers can mean something. Like all these things that we sometimes think is garbage or like kids' little toys or something like that. You would be surprised what you find in a junk drawer, for example. So definitely
Mhm.
check around your house before you buy them. But then keep your eyes open. Like if you go to thrift stores, secondhand stores, they might be some little stuff there, rummage sales. If you go on eBay and what's it called? A Facebook marketplace. People are selling things. One thing that I'm obsessed with that I haven't been able to get because I really don't clearly need any more charms, but is vintage gumball machine things. Like when we were kids, we would put a quarter in and
Ooh.
you'd get like these little things. Well, some people like apparently
Yes.
have collected those over the years. And if you go on Etsy and if you go on eBay, like people have lots of them. And I'm like, but I mean, I can't bring myself to do it because I clearly don't need it right now. But that is another. So it's really expanding your idea of what is a trinket and a charm. You can go to the craft store like Michael's. They have a whole charm section, but they also have a miniature doll section, right? So that's kind of cool. One thing I'd caution is try not to get any glass charms. I've made that
Mm.
mistake. As you're ruffling around in there, they break and you'll have glass in your fingers. We don't want that. So try not to get glass charms.
Even
What
that
else?
can be a message from spirit.
Right? Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
back to what you were saying though about associating each charm with a specific meaning. I certainly, because I've been utilizing my charms, I do have some meanings with certain charms that come automatically. But for me, it is very intuitive of where the charm lands because I when I cast on my actual cards that are laid out on my table. So
Mm.
where it lands, how it lands, what's the question, what I'm reading on, what's the symbolism of the card, does it tie in? So it really all depends. I would not say I have like a book of meanings of my charms, although that is a really cool idea, just so that you can sort of expand on it, and maybe as you're reading, it'll come to you a little bit quicker than kind of because sometimes you do have to kind of think like what does this umbrella have to do with this right now? You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
it's not like the Rider Waite deck, where you have all the meanings that the overall foundational meanings that you have right to go on. So it does help to have some idea of what you want that charm to represent, and just remember that charm, or trinket, or whatever in your collection, it doesn't have to stand for what it looks like. So, for example, I have a little cardinal that's in there. Well, instead of it meaning anything about a cardinal or bird or spirit world, you can for some people it's someone who's passed away. Like, hey, that reminds me of grandpa or something. I'm just using an example. It's not my example, but I'm just saying um like it doesn't remind me of grandpa, but it could for someone else. And another thing is that when you're reading, it's important to show all the trinkets and how they fall and everything, because the person that you're reading for oftentimes will come back to you and say, hey, I know that you wouldn't have known this, but that ladybug that you showed and it landed on this card, that this is actually what it meant. I'm like, whoa. And it blows your mind because you're like, okay, like I wouldn't have known
Yes.
that. But that's why it's so important that as silly as the message may sound or look, deliver the message, because there's oftentimes there's something there.
There's
So
something. Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
So Karen says, or actually, no, Dancing Soul Sister said that it looked like a trinket salad.
Oh yes, it does in my solid gold. That's Hannah,
Yes.
Dancing Soul Sisters Hannah.
Oh, Hannah, nice to meet you, Hannah. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
And so Karen has hers in a champagne bucket.
Hmm.
She wants a bigger bowl, the wooden salad bowl. For use. Oh, and
Yes.
then you can use those salad claws to get your.
Posture trinkets.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, I cracked myself up. Oh lordy. Okay, am I the only one who doesn't collect charms? Like everybody does something different. I find like everybody tinkers with different, systems. Some people do like tea, some people do. I watch. I've said this before on my channel. I watch a lot of Korean dramas.
mhm.
And I love how much of this divination world is interlaced, so they'll have like, oh, I forget the name of that deck that's Asian inspired. It's a Korean American creator. It's an oracle card deck, and it has like a Kuan Yin card. It's a beautiful
Oh,
watercolor deck, and one of the cards in there is of the shaman, and I'm like, yep, that's exactly how I see them in the K dramas. But they do a lot of like rice. They throw rice and they read that instead, but
yeah.
sometimes they do tarot. In fact, there is a horror movie, a Korean movie that's coming out. It's called Tarot. It's a
Oh,
psychological thriller that is coming out that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to watch that.
oh
It's
wow.
so good. Yeah. But
Have you
yeah, different
have you
people do
seen the
different.
have you seen the tarot movie like that came out recently, like the actual horror movie?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I haven't either, but people have, I don't know. And that's the thing, like I usually don't like to listen to other people's opinions until I see the movie, but from what I've heard, I'm like, I'm not gonna bother with that, but I might one day. But I tell you, I did see Beetlejuice 2 and no, I'm not having it. I didn't like it.
Oh no,
And
that's
you
disappointing.
know how much I love my Beetlejuice. I don't go anywhere without my Beetlejuice deck.
So cute. That is such a good deck. Oh, it's disappointing when they take like they waited this long to finally and then it doesn't hit home,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Like, oh, that's a bummer.
Yes.
All right. Karen says she's happy that I thought I read because it broke up. I happy I got a cigarette. And I was like, you smoke? But she says, happy I got a cigarette charm.
Oh, I was like, Karen don't smoke. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
she's got 2 Ziploc full of charms from around the house. Shane charms. Just gotta wait for them. The four-eyed cat. I remember when she pulled that four-eyed cat, and
The
I remember
four-eyed
thinking,
cat.
what is that? Like, yes.
Yes. It came out in my reading. She did readings one night and she pulled it. She's like, and you got the four-eyed cat. I was like, yeah. I don't know.
Hmm.
What does it mean? We don't know. But seeing through
Yeah,
people's bullshit, maybe. I don't know.
maybe.
Uh,
Hannah says she still finds Lego pieces, and that reminds me. I don't know if you follow Astro Tarot Lady, and I guess like she's in an area where she always finds playing cards, like
yeah,
always.
I see
I think
that
that's
a lot.
fascinating.
I think it's
Yes,
like really like I get chills every time. I'm like, wait, here's another one, and it's kind of like dirty because she found it on the ground, and it's like that's
yes.
so cool. She might have like a whole deck by now. She's finding.
Yes, with associated meanings and everything. Like I just love that. I love that you can pull that aspect. Like literally,
Yeah,
you could use divination for anything. You know what I was going to ask you? Do you have a spirit animal?
I owl is my main one. Owl, hummingbird, but owl is my main one for sure. Hmm.
I find a very, very close connection to winged, whether it be insects or birds. I feel like they're always here and they're always trying to get my attention. And I work at home. but like they catch me like out of the corner of my eye, and I'll be like trying to
Mm-hmm.
focus, and I'll like look, and oh, there's a butterfly dancing right outside my glass
Yeah.
door. And so I have a little like a mini porch, not like what you would think like in the Great South where they have these amazing porches, nothing
Wrap
like
around
that. But
porch.
yes, I would love to have a porch like that. But I just have
Yeah,
like
me
this
too.
little mini porch. And I think the people that owned this house before were fans of hanging plants or baskets, because there's hooks in there, and they're hidden on the inside of
Mm-hmm.
the, so that from the outside you cannot see the hook.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me why, like the last few days, I have looked to the side and there's a bluebird just sitting on the hook on the inside. And
Oh,
I think to
wow.
myself, how did you know that that hook was there? And what are
Right.
you doing there? And I'm just looking like, is someone after you? Like, what is happening? But he just
Oh,
flies in under the roof and then hangs out on the hook and just spends time there. And I'm like,
that's
you're
cool.
adorable. Yes, yes. So yeah, when spirit wants to get your attention, they find a way. They find, and they
Yes.
know I'm easily distracted, and they send
Same.
birds to me. They send birds to me.
Yes, I'm very connected to the bird world for sure. In our area, we're like rural, like country, so we're constantly seeing bald eagles and hawks. There's a lot of hawks. As a matter of fact, oh my gosh, one day I was going for my walk. I walked out my door, and we have another property across the street that's quite like long. And so I looked, and I was like, "What is that over there?" It looked like I don't even know what I was looking at. It just looked like a lump in the grass, but it was moving. And I thought, "What?" And I got closer, and I said to my husband, "What is that?" I said, "Oh, that's a hawk over there, like a big hawk." And he's like, "Yeah, I think he's eating something." I'm like, "Oh no." But he had another bird that he obviously got to eat it, and he had his
Oh,
talons in it, and it was trying to get away, and he was flying with it, and I thought, "Whoa." It was just I've never seen it that close. Normally a hawk like would grab it and take it away somewhere to eat it, not but maybe it was still wrestling with it on the ground. I don't know, but it was really cool. Like kind of sad, but it's a cycle of life. What are you gonna do? Um,
mhm.
but yeah, we see a lot of bald eagles around here, which is really cool. I love it because like there's some nests that are just down the road from us. So if we ever want to see them flying around, we can go look over there. And it always gives me that connection back to the United States because I'm here in Canada now, but I'm from the United States. So it always, every time I see a bald eagle, I fill up with pride and I get a little teary eyed because I do miss home. But yeah, sorry.
Well, I'll
I don't know why that,
share
I
a
don't know
little.
why that just came.
Oh, I
Oh
love
gosh.
it though. I
Yeah.
love it. Um,
Your roots, right?
locally we have, yes, locally we have an eagle. I'm sure we have more than one. We
Mhm.
locally we have an
Yeah.
eagle that has set
Mm.
up a nest, and I'm a, well, I was a bike rider. I haven't been on my bike in a while. I need to get back on there. But we have a trail very close by, and on that trail there is this nest. I can't see it. Like my friends are always like, "Look, it's right there. It's right there." I've never, but it has a cam. They have a cam set up on that eagle nest, so you could watch the activity at any point in time. And I saw it recently in my Instagram reels because it survived the storm. And
Mm.
I thought to myself, like, oh, because how often can you say, like, oh yeah, we have an eagle's nest like right there?
Yeah, that's a message right there,
Mhm.
surviving the storm in an eagle nest.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty crazy. Yeah. Okay, so Hannah says, she's asking, I think she's asking, right? So I could start with Lego pieces and broken jewelry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
And
here.
meaningful. Sometimes what I'll say about some of them, and the person will tell me something random that's meaningful to them. That's
Yes.
why they say it's so important that if something comes to you, even if it doesn't make sense to you, to trust your intuition and just say it anyways, because it could mean something to them. And maybe it's not right now in the moment, but later on, it'll be like, oh, this is what that meant.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Any readings that I've ever gotten from anybody, whether it be free here on YouTube or paid on YouTube or paid in person, I've always taken note, written down everything because I'm like, you never know. And oftentimes, yeah, there's connecting the dots of like, oh, that's why that card came up. Even sometimes weeks or months later, you're like, oh, okay, I can actually see this now taking place in my life. So yeah, you just never know. Never know when some symbolism could show back up.
Mhm. So Hannah says, here in my village, we have many red kites.
Oh,
I always talk when I see one or two outside. I'm not familiar with those
red
red
kites.
kites.
I think it's a type of isn't it a type of a hawk or I'm
I'm not
sure. I'm sure it's a
sure.
type of a hawk, yeah. Yeah.
You
Um
know, each area has its own. We have oh, those sandy hill cranes, right?
yeah.
And you know, it's they're protected, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you drive and you hit one, like
We c-
there's gonna be hell to pay. There's
Oh
gonna be
boy.
hell to pay. So they travel usually in threes, um, and they're in the neighborhood all the time, and they have a very particular sound that they make
Mm-hmm.
out there,
Mm-hmm.
but they hang out all the time. And it's usually like a mama pop and a little, like a baby one. Sometimes it's just
Oh,
two, but they're like adorable. And I see them and they come here, of course. Of course, they come here and hang out. And the other day I was leaving and they were sitting. I've never seen them sitting before. They had just tucked their little legs under and they were just making a home for themselves in the grass. And I was like, what on earth? This is
oh
so
my
cool. So I'm telling my daughter, drive slow. I want to take a video of them. They're so cute. But you know, they're so, you know, that bird has a lot of meanings attached or associated to them, you
yeah,
know. So I always try to pay attention because
same.
um,
Mm-hmm.
you never know. You never know when you're gonna
I mean,
get.
Mother Nature is the best form of divination. When you walk outside, there's all sorts of signs, and like she speaks to us too. And I strongly believe, like you said, there's certain animals or insects, right, that do come to you and are bringing you a sign. It's that most people, I don't want to say most people, but a lot of people are not aware enough, simply because, well, nowadays everybody's so busy trying to run around just to survive, or maybe people are too caught up in technology and they don't get outdoors as much. I mean, there's many different reasons, right? But yeah, I think it's so important to connect with nature in whatever way that people can, right? I realize that maybe some people don't have as much of a property or something like that, but it doesn't matter. Like, outside is outside. It doesn't matter how you get there, or how much land you have or don't have. Even just going to a park, right? It's really important to connect with that, and nature is a very, very important part of my practice. I have to be outside. Even just taking my dog out, like right before we started the live, I'm like, hey, take my dog out. Obviously, you got to take the dog because she's got to go to the bathroom. But part of it is me standing, like I have these little furry like moccasins that I wear because it's cold here right now, and just standing
Mm.
on the grass because we don't have snow yet, thank God. I'm grounding myself. I'm standing in the sunshine. It's part of who I am. Like I have to have that groundedness. And like, in the Western astrology, I'm a Virgo, so I'm an earth sign. So, I need that
Mhm.
to balance myself out, and anything that's going on, I just recalibrate and ground myself. And then I have my little practices that I do here to clear the energy, and we're good to go. So, but nature's a big part of it, and I love nothing more than walking in the woods. Like, we do have a conservation area not too far from here, and so we'll take some walks in the woods. It's very seasonal because the insects here are crazy because we live right on a body of water, so you'll get attacked by mosquitoes most times of the year, but like this is the perfect time of year because there's no bugs. And also, probably more importantly than mosquitoes, is it's a heavily,
Oh, yes.
and as you know, some will carry Lyme disease, and that can be scary. So, not that I allow that to keep me from nature, but I'm aware. I don't go out during a season that they're heavily populated because that would just be silly to do that. Um,
Mhm.
but you could stay on the trail. Like there's paved roads throughout this place too, so you could just stay on there instead of traipsing into the trails to kind of protect yourself a little bit more. But I feel completely at home when I'm in nature. I just feel so grounded. Nature is my church. Some people go to a place of worship. That is my place of worship. So I feel energized. It doesn't matter what's happening in my life. If I go for a walk in the woods, there's always a saying that says, into the woods I go to lose my mind and find my soul. And that's
I
it.
love that. I don't know, for some reason that reminded me of that Oracle deck by, is it Dan Mays, with the art by Into the Woods?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it
Yes.
reminded me of when you said that. I'm a fire sign, as you already know.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
a fire sign, so I find that when I'm near the water,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like right smack in the middle of the peninsula, so it's quite a distance to get out to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, I live in an area that is full of lakes, and so it's easier for me to have access to that than it is to like get to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it there. I find that I need that type of the soothing, the water. Like I need that. It helps me out a lot.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Let's see. I grew up on Lake Michigan in Wisconsin.
Mm.
And so here now excuse me, here I'm on Lake Erie. And so it's just interesting how in life, like, and we've moved all around all over the place. I've lived in Arizona at one time. We traveled like and lived, when I say lived, like we traveled in a fifth wheel trailer. So
Mm.
when we
Mhm.
when we parked there, we were there for sometimes 6 months or more. So you really feel the culture and the area that you're in. And we were like in Inverness, Florida, and all Sarasota at one point, and I actually really loved Florida. It was one of my favorite places because it's so diverse. When we were like at the top of Florida, it was like a completely different place than when we traveled down to Sarasota. It was like, whoa, it really felt like north. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
more not no, Everglades is south, Ange. That's not what I meant. I meant like when we were in Inverness, it was like really, they had like the big old mossy trees. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I mean that's throughout Florida, but I'm just saying in that spot that we were, I just remember that, and the specific birds that were there, like those ibis birds with the big old long legs.
Oh
And
yes.
it was cool because it was the first time we had ever been to Florida, and it was like this whole magical land. Like forget Disney, like let's go out to these, like you said, these lakes. Disney is very cool too, by the way. We went very fortunate enough that my mother-in-law actually took me and my kids and my husband, of course, um, when they were smaller, and I'm forever grateful for that because Disney is one of those things that some people will never be able to afford. It's just, in my mind, it's way overpriced. But it is truly magical. It really is, especially when kids are small. So that was cool. Off on a tangent, but anyway, yeah, the lakes. So bodies of water are important to me too. So grounding in nature, like I said, through the woods and stuff, is sort of, I would say, every day kind of for me. But the water's where I go to like really release, like the ebb and flow of the tides. I mean, it's right in my name of my channel, Roots and Waves. So I've got the rooting of the forest and the waves of the water. And yeah, I go there for meditations, um, just to relax. Oftentimes we'll just grab a coffee and go sit by the lake, and in the summertime it's
Mhm.
really fun to watch people play around on all of their boats and their whatever toys they have out on the water. Um, and but mostly I really like it when it's quiet, when there's really nobody around and you could just take it
Yes.
all in. Um,
Mhm.
but bodies of water, yeah, they've always been a part of my life and connects me to my childhood too, because like I said, I grew up on Lake Michigan, so I spent a lot of time there with like my grandmother and my families and stuff like that. So it brings all that back in when I'm there too. And as you know, all the lakes eventually flow into one another, so you kind of feel that
Yes.
connection, the interconnectedness of it all as well.
That area is very, very special. And I actually, I think I mentioned to you that I was reading that book, Braiding Sweetgrass.
Yes, that's a good book.
And in one of the final chapters of the book, they talked about that space there, I don't know. I just felt so touched. And I felt like every time I was like, hey, guess what I'm reading? The other person would be like, oh, yeah, I read that. And I'm like, am I the only person who hadn't read the book?
Actually, it's been years. I would love to. That's one book I would reread. Normally, I don't reread books, but I definitely would reread that one. It was so,
Mhm.
I think it was so jam-packed with little insights and, um, I don't know, just they were sharing real life experience, of course. And
Yes, it
yeah, it
was
was just,
beautiful. And I don't know, like the version that I had, I think it was catered to a young adult audience.
oh,
Um, and so it was really special, but like this is the copy that I have. But I think what I found in here was the artwork that I was like, whoa,
yeah.
I want this in color.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Hmm.
so gorgeous and so reminiscent of Mari in the Sky.
Yes, I was gonna say indigenous artwork. Yeah,
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved everything about it, and I read this for book club.
Hmm.
And so tomorrow we're going to be having a discussion. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, that's so
Uh,
cool.
yeah, on this book. But anyways, it was really special to read. And I remember they were talking towards the end, you know, about the Wendigo, the Wendigo, and they shared like a little map of the area that you're talking about. I remember the first time I visited one of the Great Lakes. I can't remember which one it was. The one close to Ohio.
Yeah, so that would
My
be
dad, my
Lake
dad
Erie.
lives there, Lake Erie. Okay, so
Mhm.
I want to go fishing. He took me there. I was like, what the heck? This is an ocean.
Yeah,
This is an
yes,
ocean.
the word great in there is for a reason, for sure, yeah. And Erie actually is one of so it's called Erie for a reason. Now I don't know if that's how the name came about, but what I know of Lake Erie is that it's one of the most shallow of the, and when I say shallow, it's definitely deep, but it's the
Mm,
most shallow of all the Great Lakes. And because of that, it can turn. It can turn so quickly because, as you can imagine, the waters can churn up so easily because it's so shallow, and it's taken many lives, many, many lives. Same with Lake Michigan. So you have to really respect it. Out here where we live, we've been here for 10 years now, and I can tell you that search and rescue helicopter has been out here at least 3 or 4 times, and that's terrifying. Every time I hear it, and it's always at night for some reason, and they got their light going on, and your heart just sinks and you're thinking, please find that person alive. But at the same time, what the hell are you doing? Sometimes, a lot of times, I mean, there's accidents that happen, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times you're like, really? You could have
It's
prevented that
just
from happening.
poor judgment. Sometimes it's just poor judgment. I spent a week in Arizona, and I loved it. And I tried to do all the things. I almost killed myself on the very first hike. And then,
So hot there,
was
yeah.
like, what? Oh, it was very, very hot. But
Mm,
that night, the helicopters, like what you're saying, the helicopter was out and it was like that. It was somebody went hiking and then waited too long and now they can't get down by themselves and they were
yeah.
out of battery and all the things and they have to send helicopters to rescue them for poor
Hmm.
judgment.
Hmm.
And these are things that it's very, very expensive
Yes. Oh gosh.
for cities and towns to
Yep.
do these rescue efforts. It's really sad that people don't think about that. Um, you know,
Right.
they don't think in
Exactly.
advance. All
Yeah,
right.
I
I
agree.
just wanted to get back to Hannah because she's
Oh.
talking about here. They live in the trees in the village. She's talking about the red kites. They live in the trees
Oh
in the
yeah.
village. They are protected as well. And she says she loves their voice. It's kind of like a whistling meow.
Oh. I don't know that I've
And
ever seen one. I don't know if they're here where I
no,
live. I
I
don't
want to
know.
look them up. I want to look
Hmm.
them up. That's
There's
so
so many
cool.
types of hawks, right? A lot
Mm-hmm.
of different
So,
ones.
and do you know the thing? You see them all the time, and you're like, all right, what's the big deal? But then,
Yeah.
like when I used to have a fence before it got blown down, the hawks would come and sit on the fence, and when they're sitting there, you realize just how large they are. You're like, whoa,
Mm.
when they're that close.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Where was I? In Sarasota, actually, speaking of Florida, I was working in an RV resort because what we were doing is working in exchange for a spot to park our trailer.
mm,
And I had a little golf cart and I drive around and basically it was checking out people's what do they call mobile homes? You know, they stay there, they don't move
mm,
in this RV park. Like they have a section of the RV park for transients that come and go like we did, but then there's these big mobile homes that stay there. And my job was to go, and it was huge. It's called Sun and Fun in Sarasota.
mm.
And anyway, I drive up and down these roads, make sure. I mean, what I don't know really what they expected me to do, but just make sure there's no shenanigans taking place. And if so, we had other people that would investigate if something went down. But anyway, so I turned on one road and this golf cart's electric, so it's quiet. I'm zooming along and I look up and I'm not kidding you, from like within like 3 or 4 feet in front of me, this owl poof, sits right on this fence post, and I didn't even know what to do. I didn't want to move. I was just so still. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I'm like
Mm.
talking, hi. Like, wow. I've never seen an owl that close in all my life. And he was just like looking at me, turning his head. I'm like, whoa, I just didn't want the moment to end. It was so crazy. And then I was like talking to him and stuff and trying to connect with him. And then just like he landed, he just like lifted his wings and took off. Just not startled, just away he went. And I was like, did that just happen? Oh my gosh. And so as quick as I could, I got back to my husband. I said, oh my gosh, you're never gonna believe this. Come, like, let's see if he's still there. Maybe we can still see him. And I went back, and of course he wasn't there, but he's like, are you sure you saw an owl? I'm like, I'm telling you, he was right here. And
That's
then
funny.
shortly at this is really, it gave me chills because I don't know, of course, if this was the same owl. There's lots of owls around there, of course, but um one day we were working at the RV resort and we heard this loud bang, like the loudest bang I've ever heard in my whole life. It actually hurt my ears. It shook the ground. I thought, what the hell was that? It turned out an owl flew into the electricity transformer thing.
Oh.
I know. And it obviously it died, but it blew its wing off. Like it hit it, and there's like a wing that like was on the ground when we went back in where we parked all the golf carts. And I was just so sad. I'm like, I really hope that's not the owl I just talked to the other day. Like,
That to be traumatizing to witness something like that.
that was really, and I was like, okay, what is, and then of course, as you know, like I like to put me, what does this mean? Is this a sign? Should we leave now?
Yes.
Like, but I mean, talking to people at the park, they're like, oh no, like it happens. And I'm like, well, that's really sad. Like, too bad they couldn't put something in that area to distract the wildlife. If that happens all the time, maybe something should be done about it. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, it was, it was sad,
I
but
I think I'm fascinated by animals in the most curious of ways, I
yeah,
think, because I grew up in the city, buildings, apartments, and I think I do remember lightning bugs, right? Fireflies. I
yes,
remember those. But in terms of animals like rats, I don't know, like there weren't animals, and I was just always afraid. I was afraid of animals, afraid of dogs. I don't think I ever saw a cat. At least I don't remember ever seeing one, and I was just always afraid. I just grew up like in that kind of environment. So when
mhm,
um later in life, as I started to have my own family, I remember thinking like, I don't want my children to be afraid or traumatized of animals. So I
no,
rather get over my fear so that they can enjoy that growing up. We've always had,
yeah,
so since they've been with me, we've always had animals, dogs and cats. Um, and so it's interesting because I'm fascinated by them because I didn't have them, but like I don't understand them. But I try to understand them, but I don't understand them. So I'm just always in this back and forth. And I think that's why, like, when it comes to tarot decks, like it has to be a people deck. If I have a deck and there's like an overabundance of animals, I'm like, I can't do it.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
watched the video the other day where they were talking like, oh, if they pull out a card, oh, I think it was Danny and Lisa Papez, and they were talking about cards that or decks that put animals into the court cards. and they're like, I can't have a fish, I need a person.
It's true. I know. I'm not, well versed in animal symbology. Like what does this mean, that mean? But having said that, so I don't like heavy animal based decks either, but there's a few exceptions. A Gentle Tarot's one, and there's a couple. But I will say that I have incorporated animal charms into my bowl here.
Mm.
And so when they do come out, I have learned more associations with them because of the charms, but I don't like to put too many in there because like you, I don't it's just not my thing. Like I love animals, but I don't connect as much to that as I do like to the people, like you said, in the decks and stuff. So
Yes.
it throws me off sometimes because I'm like, well, there's a moose. Well, what is this moose doing? Like what does this mean?
What does that mean? I think one of those decks uses like a caribou as the empress. And all I could think when I hear caribou is Polar Express.
Yes.
Caribou!
Yeah, exactly. I
I can't. There's
know.
nothing empress in that
Yeah,
moment.
I'm
In that
definitely not.
moment, I'm like, can't do it.
Mhm.
But in
Okay.
Florida, I'm overwhelmed sometimes by the different animals that I've come across in
Mm,
my regular day-to-day walks. Bobcats, I've seen bobcats on my walk. Alligators, unfortunately,
oh yeah.
they come out. Sometimes they come out on the trail. It's just there's so many. And
Hmm.
if you encounter them like on a regular basis, then you eventually kind of learn a little bit about them. So it's different than seeing maybe an animal that you don't normally
Hmm.
come in contact with. You see that a lot with Australian um, creators. Sometimes they mention like, okay, there's a lot of animals and that's fine, but I don't even know any of these animals. To me, when I see the animal, it's like I feel like I know more about a unicorn than I do about any of these animals. So I get it
Yep.
because there's different animals in the different hemispheres and some are really
Hmm.
prevalent in certain areas. So I don't know, it's a lot to learn.
It is. It's a lot to take in. And then there's also like I love looking up to like indigenous culture and how they have their ways of life and everything, and I respect and understand like they've got closed practices, so I'm not saying that, but just in general of how they use animal medicine, you know what I mean, like, oh, to us
Yes.
this means this. And so when I do want to look for information, I will go to like an indigenous site by an indigenous person and say, okay, like what medicine does this bird have for me, or does whatever. And I love to hear what they have to say. And of course there's other cultures that work with animals. I'm just saying
Mhm.
indigenous is one that I'm drawn to and that I
Yes.
respect. When my grandmother was alive, she just passed away in June, but she was heavily connected to indigenous culture. She's not indigenous herself, but I'm just saying she took it upon herself to really connect with indigenous culture, go to hang out with some of the tribes. I'm trying to think of, I don't know if it was Chippewa. Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but anyway, in the Milwaukee area, and they took her on like, as, I don't want to say one of their own, but they were so accepting of her.
They welcomed her.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
they saw that she was genuine and really wanted to learn. And again, there's closed practices in indigenous culture. I'm not saying they brought her into those, but they just accepted her wanting to learn more about certain things, and they gave her a name, um, Phoenix. Oh gosh, Phoenix, Phoenix something. Shoot, I'd have to go back and look. But anyway, and so anytime I see like the Phoenix bird, I think of my grandma. And I just thought, how cool, that a culture was that open to accepting somebody not of their culture to just say, hey, like, there's certain practices that are closed that we don't open to people, but come join us here. This is what buffalo tastes like, and this is what we do for this, and this is how we make this. And she's got all kinds of like hand drums and all kinds of stuff. As a matter of fact, when she passed away, she left everything, of course, behind. You can't take it with you. But what I meant by that is she wanted the family members to have whatever they wanted. And my mom,
Mm.
was saying to me, like, when you come visit, which I hope to make it there in the spring because I haven't been home in years, and that's why I got emotional when I mentioned the eagle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's like, you have to take some of grandma's indigenous things, and you have to take some of her crystals. I was like, oh my gosh, I was like emotional just thinking about it because
Like, I'll
I'm
be happy
not,
to.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm so like, she was mentioning it kind of like right when she passed, and I was, emotional because I couldn't be there with the family
Mm-hmm.
throughout. So that was weird to experience grief from a distance like that. But at the same time, as we all know, spirit is everywhere. You don't have to be there, but still,
Yeah.
like, to be there with family was hard. Not be there with family was hard, but I'm not a materialistic person. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like my decks and stuff like that and tools, but when it comes to losing someone, the last thing on my mind is taking their stuff. I don't I don't even like to think of that. I don't care if it's money or material things. Um m- I'm very fortunate that we're in a family that doesn't fight over those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so when my mom was really like, no, like she wants you to have these things. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, maybe when I come in the spring, I said, just pack everything in a box. And then when I'm there, we can go through it. Because right now I'm not emotionally ready to even think about
Yeah. You have to be
taking
in
my
the right
grandma's things.
mindset. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I'm like that's too emotional for me right now, but I'm
No.
very honored that she wants to pass down such things, and I'll definitely treasure them and use them in my practice. But whew, it's kind of like, one of those things like, oh gosh, I don't want to think about grandma's stuff right now. Like she just passed away.
Mm-hmm. I would
Mm.
love to find and connect with a group here locally. I did my, actually, we did this last year for the holidays, our DNA, analysis. And
Mm.
yeah, I found out that I'm 29% indigenous. And
What?
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, 29%. And I was like, I knew it because there were certain things that I felt like I couldn't resonate with, and other things that I was automatically drawn to, and I just didn't understand why. And it just helps me see things in such a different way.
Wow.
That's something that I definitely want to explore,
That's really
explore
cool.
more.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm gonna take us back to the chat
Oh
for a
yeah.
minute so we can get caught up, right? So Karen is talking about a screech owl in her backyard.
Ooh.
That's really cool. She says, and I have a Canada goose with a broken wing. A
Oh, you mean like
Canada goose.
literally like hanging around or like a charm? Like, what do you mean a charm with a broken wing, or do you mean an actual goose? Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yes, Hannah's asking her, did you rescue her? Not really. We have a huge pond in the
Oh.
backyard. He's male. He just showed up and it was already healed. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's so cool.
Karen,
My
she
kids
cracks
work
me
at
up.
a Karen is hilarious. I love her. Um my kids work at a golf course, and it's a huge, like, I don't know how many acres. It's humongous. But of course there's geese, Canada geese there. And yeah, there was one walking around with like a hurt leg or something like that, um and they got help for it or whatever. But it's just, yeah, it's always sad when you see these little animals that are injured. You're like, oh no, like you try to do everything you can to help. But that's cool that it kind of fixed itself. But I guess maybe they can't fly, right, with a broken wing, so it's kind of stuck there hanging out
Yeah,
in the
I'm
pond.
happy it survived how it did because, how do they hunt? How do they get away
Yeah.
from danger?
Oh.
Okay, Karen, moose, those jokers are fierce. You're not kidding. I
Oh.
saw a reel yesterday about two moose that somehow got into some guy's backyard and they were having it out, fighting, duking it out. They crashed into his car. Of course, the windows broke. Then they crashed
Oh
into
my
the
God.
fence. They knocked the entire PV, and the guy's outside. No, no, come on, guys.
Whoa.
No. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? You can't get in the middle of that. Like they were having a heated brawl.
Oh gosh, no, not a moose. Like that's like getting hit by a train. Um, Definitely. So you mentioned, I just want to rewind a little bit. You mentioned
Mm.
bobcat, and I know when we were in Florida, we're like looking up in the trees, like, is it true? Like, are they here? Of course they're there. But we're just not used to that here where we live. But there's a little restaurant that's only open seasonally down here on the lake. And when you go in this restaurant, they have a fireplace, and above the mantle, there's a stuffed bobcat that passed away like naturally. They didn't kill it or anything like that. And it came from that conservation area that I told you about, but this was way back in the day, that they used to be down here. And so it just shows you too, like the different changes in animals that are in different areas. Like now there's definitely no bobcats down here, but there's heavy coyote population, and I mean big coyotes. Like I'm not kidding you. I saw one run across the road, and I said to my husband, "Oh, just slow down. There was a deer. There's lots of deer here, you know." And he says, "And that was not a deer." And I was like, "Yeah, it was. It was a littler deer, but it was." He's like, "No, that was not a deer." And I was like, "Well, I'm sure because of the way the legs were off the ground. You know, I thought, well, what could it be? That wasn't a dog." He's like, "No, that was a coyote." I'm like, "What?" And then a couple days later, there was somebody in our community that was going around warning people, saying, "Hey, honest to God, I come across the biggest coyote I've ever seen in my life. It was the size of a small deer." I'm like, "Oh," and I just the thought of it, I'm like, "That is a humongous coyote. Like what?"
Yes.
And they were
Yes.
like, you know, "It's okay. Like this is where they live. It's cool, but just be mindful of your pets, you know, like your small dogs and well, even your large dogs. I suppose they could take it if it's as large as a small deer." But yeah, they were kind of just warning us that they're here and they come in herds, you know. So sometimes it's always later at night and you can hear them yipping, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, here they come." I'm like, "Get in here, my dog," you know, don't hang out
Yes.
there. But it's cool. It's very powerful, but at the same time, you just like anything in nature, you respect it, right? You're like, okay, you know,
Yes.
they're doing their
I
thing,
think
let them do their thing.
that's the key word. That is the key word. It's about respect. I was on a
Mhm.
walk once and I came face to face with one of those like wild boars.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what do I do? It was just
Yeah.
me and my little phone. Like I just
Yes.
stood there. I'll just stay on my side of the street. You stay on your side of the street. What are you even doing here?
I know.
I made it, but it was so scary. Like
Oh, for
this
sure.
wild boar. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Gosh, they're powerful. Don't they have the
yeah.
little tusks? I think. Do the boars
I
have
didn't
the
look
tusks?
at
Or
him
is that
that
a
closely. I
I'm not
didn't look
sure.
at him closely. I
I
was
was
just
gonna
like,
say, I don't know, but I wouldn't want to come across that either. Like, I mean, from afar, but you stay over
yeah,
there.
stay. I'll
Mhm.
get mad. I'll fight you. I'll fight you if I have to. Oh goodness. All right. So Hannah says, yeah, she likes just the right mix of animals and humans. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind if there's animals mixed in with humans in my decks, but if it's strictly animal, like you said, it kind of throws me off a little bit. I do have a few animal decks, but I will admit I don't use them as often as other ones.
No, yeah. I like a mix, but like the court cards, I definitely feel like I can't sit there in a reading and stare at a fish that says, page cups
The
and
fish is
think,
supposed to be in the cup, not out. Like,
yeah,
what the heck?
like what the heck are we doing here?
I agree. I agree. Excuse me.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Okay. Somebody said something about swans being offended easily. Oh
oh,
my
swans
God,
are
Karen.
moody. Swans are
I've
moody
been
as
chased
hell.
by a swan or two before. Karen, tell us about that.
Yes, Canadian geese are the worst, actually. Sorry, I'm just having a little nasal drip there. Canadian geese, whoa. If they have a nest, well, any animal that has a nest is going to be more protective, but Canadian geese, oh my gosh, they will chase you down and they bite. Like, so
Mm.
you can't get close to them. And they'll swat you. And they got little, I don't think people know this, but they have like these little claws at the end of their wings and they'll get you with them. So it's like, wow,
Oh,
I
I didn't know
know.
that.
They can be
Wow.
temperamental. Oof, I know. So if you see a goose with a nest, just leave them.
Mm. Hannah says, and you will know when you are ready for it. I'm not
Oh, she was talking
sure.
about my grandma, when
Mhm.
I'm ready to take her
Yes.
things. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's just, I don't know, to me, it's still so surreal because I don't think I mean, I got closure because they actually ended up, what is it called? Live streaming, the funeral. So I got to be there in that aspect.
Oh.
So that was
Mhm.
really, really, really good for me because I did feel closure. But when I go visit my mom in the spring, she inherited my grandma's house, and so that's going to be really weird and really hard, to go there and she's not there.
Mhm.
But I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really happy for my mom because she never owned a home of her own, and so this is really exciting for her to be able to take over like the family home. And it's an older home, and my grandma's been there for a long, long time. And it always was like the center of where we gathered, like in the backyard. And it's a beautiful place. And so, yeah, I'm really happy for her that she has a place to call her own. I can't imagine the layers of grief she must be experiencing with taking on that. I know it's been very hard for her, and it's been really hard to be there for her being this far away. But she's a strong woman. I mean, come on, I come from her, so she's got to be strong, right? Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's been a wild ride with it all because my mom, like where she lives now in like a townhome, she's been there for I don't know, 30 some years. So literally when she's decluttering and packing, she's going through the grief of her ex-husband, her kids that have now moved on and have lives of their own, right? You start to find all of these things because you've lived there for so long.
Mhm.
You have stuff in the basement that you haven't looked at since, 19 freaking whatever, 93, I don't know,
Mhm.
and it was kind of cute though because she was showing me, do you remember this? She's holding up little like baby outfits. I'm like, no, I don't remember that. How
You're like, oh
cute.
yeah,
But
I remember.
but it was kind of cool because she had like some other little things, and I was like, oh, I would like to have just some of those things. Like she had I think it was like a blanket or something, and it had like some cute little, like vintage cartoony looking things on it. I was like, I could put that down as a spread while I'm doing like inner child work, like that would be really cool. So anyway, so she's going through her
I was
things.
gonna say, speaking of inner child, like when you talked earlier about that gumball thing, you were
Yeah,
speaking to my inner child because that would be
yes,
fun. Like,
I
can you
know.
imagine if you put
Oh
your
my gosh.
charm inside each one of those little holders and then you
Yes. Yes, which one are we gonna get? Oh my gosh, yes. We never went to a grocery store without, my mom was always like digging in her purse, like, Mom, can we have a quarter? She's like,
They still have
sometimes,
them in the stores. You can
yes,
still like, oh, I want to put, give me 25 cents. My son
right?
will give, Mom, let me get 25 cents. I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, come on, 19.
I know, but
That's,
it's so fun.
why do
I
you need
know.
25 cents? Where's your
Yeah.
25 cents?
Yeah. Kids don't carry cash on them, Mom. Come on, they got all that plastic that they swipe.
Oh, my
Uh,
Lord. Oh, Karen has to go. She'll watch the rest of it. Thank you so much, Karen, for
Hi.
stopping
Oh,
in.
Karen's going on at 3. She's going to be live at 3. So I know
Mm,
I do have to pick
mhm,
my son up a little later, but I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I just wanted to
mhm.
say I didn't realize that what's her name? Heather was going live today. I guess she's live with Jackie. I didn't know. Actually, when we scheduled this live, you know,
Oh.
we kind of like looked across the board to, we try not to overlap with people. Sometimes it happens, and I mean, come on, YouTube's a big world, you can't possibly work around every schedule.
Mhm.
But I mean, I tried because I like to be there to support and engage too. And like Karen mentioned, oh, I'll be popping back and forth between your like Elizabeth's and Heather's live. I was like, Heather's live today? Oh no. So she must have, obviously they must have worked something out and scheduled it after the fact, and I didn't know. And so
I
anyway,
didn't
I'm
realize. Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't realize.
but it happens because I mean,
Mm,
and especially like for Jackie, she's in a different country, right? So her schedule is like limited to when she can be on. And so once you finally
mhm.
find a schedule that works, it's kind of like this is the day, this is the time, and
You
we
gotta
can't,
go with it.
you know,
Mhm.
can't help it. And
Yeah.
like today was the only time this week that I had, because I was live yesterday with Karen, and then tomorrow I'm live with Rain for Beyond the Veil. Friday's
Mhm.
my son's 18th birthday. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for that.
Oh, how fun.
I know, like it's so unbelievable to me that he's 18. I'm like, how? Oh my God. But I'm excited.
Mhm.
We're gonna go out to a fancy restaurant. There's an Italian restaurant in a town over from us that's the fanciest in that you can get around here anyway. And they make their own pasta by scratch and stuff. So it's gonna be really cool to just take them to something like that. We don't get to do that very often. So it'll be cool just to hang out. And as you know, when they're teenagers, you don't really get to hang out that much anymore. They're doing their own
No.
thing. They've got their
Yes.
jobs or school or friends or boyfriends, girlfriends. And so it'll be really a special day. So I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yes. Everything is prioritized over like Hanging out with you? No, I don't
Yes,
think
that's
so.
right. Yeah. It's like, can you sit down at the
Yesterday,
table and have dinner with me? Like,
no, yeah,
yeah.
like my son was gone like all day yesterday, and then he showed up, and you're here. And he's like, oh, I just came to say hi. I'm leaving. I'm like, you just got here. What do you mean you're leaving? This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, it goes by fast. Well, you'll have a busy
It
week
does.
with celebrations and all kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
exciting.
There's lots of change right now in the world
Mm,
and here. We've got different work schedules going on, so the times that I do things are different, which is fine. Actually, it's a good change. Like I feel like I'm getting up earlier. I'm not staying up nearly as late. I'm getting more things done. I have so many more ideas for my channel. It feels good. There's a lot of flushing out, a lot of change, and I can feel that around me too. Like a lot of different people are trying different things and
mhm,
growing and learning. And so I'm excited. I think this is a really good time in life. They're calling it the Great Awakening, and I do believe that in terms of spirituality, and it's all about the time that you dedicate to it. Take time for yourself and really explore what you want. And yes, we all have to work, we all have to pay our bills, but it's very important to connect with like-minded people like yourself. Like I'm so grateful that we connected and with Karen and people like that. Um, yeah, it's important that we do that. We branch out and we connect with our spirituality in a way that feels comfortable to us, that can only be done by us, you know what I mean? Because it's so personal. And so
mhm,
I've been doing a lot of that work lately, especially. Well, I've kind of been forced into it. I know it sounds weird, but I've been off on medical leave from work due to stress leave and burnout and depression and these type of things. So really, like my body forced me into like, well, this is it. You're gonna have to slow down now and sort of recalibrate, regroup, and discover like what you really want in life. It's like, whoa, wow, okay. I mean, not that I didn't have a path before, but
mm,
you get thrown off sometimes because you're focused on survival, right? And sometimes that's not a good thing because yes, we have to pay our bills, but you also have to take care of yourself because health is wealth, right? It's the ultimate wealth, if you ask me. So
yes,
it's
for
been a
sure.
real eye opener since June. A lot has changed. A lot has changed since June, and I think it's all for the better. I think I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about other people, and I'm excited. I'm excited for 2025. It's the Hermit year. It's the Virgo year. It's a
Hermit is
9 year.
my card. Hermit is my
There
card.
you
My life path.
I love Hermit. I love Hermit energy. I love it. And I think I would like to talk about Hermit card. Maybe we can get together and do that
Mm,
because I think that people sort of put Hermit in a box and think, oh, he's in a cave, he's doing his thing. You know what I mean? And like I say he, you know what I mean, just generally Hermit.
mhm,
But Hermit is so much more. Oh gosh, Hermit is such an expansive energy. And yes, you're going within, but you're also shining that light for others. And oh, it just gives me the chills. We should
I'm
definitely,
living the hermit's dream. What do you
yeah.
mean? Living the hermit's dream.
Yes, we should definitely talk about Hermit. I love that card. Actually,
Sometimes
one of
people
my
tell me like, "Oh my gosh, you sound like a hermit." I'm like, "You say it like it's a bad thing."
That's right. No, I very much understand that. I like my privacy. I like my cozy home and everything. I love to like, do things sometimes, but I prefer not to, no, especially nowadays. Like it's just such a different energy when I go out and about. It's not like it used to be, and I just prefer to have control over what I consume and who I hang out with and what I do. And so I try not to be too introverted, but once I get to know people, I feel like I'm more extroverted because I'm comfortable around them. But
Mhm.
for the most part, I do prefer hermit mode. There's something I was going to say about hermit somehow. What was I going to say? Oh, my original YouTube handle, when I very, very first created a YouTube account, I believe, before I created any channel, it was called Hermit and High Priestess. And I still have the account. It's still there. I actually had to use it the other day for the first time because Karen accidentally blocked me on her channel.
Oh
'Cause
no.
because StreamYard is, when you have the comments and you go to hit the button, sometimes it jumps and then you accidentally hide the person instead of star the person. And anyway, it was truly a mistake and she fixed it since. But it was cool to kind of flip back to that other account. I'm like, well, how else can I chat with her? I'm like, oh, this account. And so it shows up Hermit and High Priestess. I was like, ooh, this is nostalgic for me. Just going
Mhm.
back. So, but those two cards in the tarot, I guess is what I was getting at, are very important cards to me. I'm very deeply connected to both the Hermit and the High Priestess card. So, are there other cards that you're connected to other than your Life Path Hermit card?
The Emperor.
Ooh,
That's a
yeah.
love-hate relationship.
The
That's a
Aries.
love-hate relationship. I find that people oftentimes love me for some of my emperor qualities, and but they can easily like dislike me for my emperor qualities. It's just part of who I am. I can't control it. But the best thing that I can do is have awareness about it, I think, because it's a constant reminder that I have to connect with the feminine more. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think, growing up the way that I did, in a household of all girls, and wanting to make my father in particular proud. And then in this environment in work in corporate America that struggle to have your voice be heard, it often puts you in a situation where you are utilizing your masculine skill sets more than anything else. I feel like I tap into my masculine energy more often. I even forget sometimes that I have this other side of me, and
Mhm.
I need a little bit of that to help tone down some of the emperor
Yeah.
energy. And my daughter, makes fun of me all the time. Like, it's just insanity, like even last year, this was a conversation around the tree. Okay, we're gonna put these ornaments. Okay, hold on. We need to make a plan how we're gonna put the ornaments. She's staring at me. What? I was like, well, we only have 12 of those. So that means that we have to put four first, then three,
Right.
then two, then, and she's just like,
Structure. Come on.
you're take the fun out of Christmas.
Mom.
I was just like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
guess you're right. I guess you're right. But like, I can't help it. Like, I get like that. And I think I probably create most of my own problems, right? By putting myself in these boxes. So it's really good for me to do other practices
Mhm.
where I am forcing myself to kind of color outside of the line.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, even me being a Virgo, we have our perfectionism. I would call it a problem actually, because sometimes it can become too much, right? Like um, sometimes you hesitate or you procrastinate because like it's not perfect. And meanwhile, there's no such thing as perfect. Just do it, and then fine tune it as you go. So like throughout my life, I've really had to learn that like it's fine. Just put it out there and revamp it or touch it
Mhm.
up or change it up as you go. Because if you don't, you'll constantly have all these ideas and not put anything out there. And that's part of the reason why I hesitated for so long making a YouTube channel, because I'm like, well, I don't know, like what, I'm sure we all as YouTube creators have that self-doubt and, am I good enough? Do I have anything unique to say? Blah, blah, blah. But really, like we all obviously have unique voices and perspectives, and we have unique practices. So that in itself is a reason to start a channel and
Mhm.
share yourself no matter what you share out here. So yeah, I love that you've grown, right, with your channel in terms of, like you said, you originally started with just showing your hands and then you graduated to wanting to show your face. Was there something specific that happened that made you gain the confidence to say, well, like I want to show more of myself? Like, was there a specific moment, or you just felt like it was time because you grew into that, or?
I took, similar to you, I took a year off of everything. I took a year off of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just everything in general, including
Yeah.
like tarot and all the things. And when I came back, I found like it wasn't even a choice that I made. It just seemed like the natural thing to do. I want to come back. Okay, this is something I would never have done, right? in the previous me. The previous me would never have done this, but at that moment, present day me was like, I want to come back and I want to talk about it. And I just opened up my thing, set everything up, and I just started talking to the camera. And now looking back, like, yeah, old me would never have done that. They've been like, no, you silly, you don't put that out there. You just journal about it in your little book and keep it to yourself. No,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to do that. So I didn't even think about it. I just thought, this is what I'm feeling right now. And I just want to put it out there. And that's what I'm going to do. And then I realized, wow, like, oh, you're starting to do these things. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how we grow as individuals. And I think that's
Mhm.
kind of my favorite part of having a YouTube channel is occasionally going back, watching that first video or, some earlier videos and seeing how much we've grown as individuals, as content creators, and as a person who uses the tarot, in terms of our abilities. It's really a cool tool to sort of keep track of those things and to see how far you've come, because I feel like, when we're doing it, you really don't feel it. It's almost the same as like when your children are growing up and you see them every day, every day, every day, and someone else comes to visit for the first time and you're like, oh my gosh, you're so big, and you're like, what? That kind of thing. You don't realize how far you've come in that amount of time. And yeah, it's really neat to experiment with different things, to try different
Mhm.
videos. I'm still experimenting. I think I always will, because I think that's half the fun of having a
Yes.
channel is
Mhm.
finding the things, and you mentioned it earlier, it's very important, finding the things you want to do. What does the algorithm want? I mean, of course you naturally have your audience in mind. What would they also enjoy? Yes, but at the end of the day, you have to enjoy what you're doing, because, if let's say if all I was doing was deck flip throughs, which for a while there I was offering quite a few, I realized like I don't want to just do that, but I also want to do that. Like I don't want to not do that, because I feel like
Yes.
it's a very valuable resource out here. I know personally I will not buy a deck unless I watch a flip through, because I want to know all the stuff. I want to see what the card stock's like. I want to see all the images. That's the most important. And there's nowhere else really you can go to see all the different cards, and you certainly can't go to the store and open up a box and start looking through them.
Yes.
So and of course if you're on Amazon, then you really don't know what you're buying until you look on YouTube, right? So yeah, it's fun to explore these different topics. It's fun to talk like this and come up with ideas. Like, I was just saying we should do the hermit card together. Yesterday I was
Mhm.
on a live with Karen and we started talking about tarot ethics. Actually, that was the first, I think, 30 minutes of the show. It was really good, actually. We were
Mhm.
talking about how there's different readers out here, and there's no necessarily good or bad readers, although we did speak to, like, there's some lazy readers, meaning, I don't know that they're really tapping in anything. They're just sort of pulling cards and saying whatever. And that's okay. Again, there's all different type of people. But then we got talking about specific ethics, because there's people in chat asking, like, can you tell me, what was the question? Can you tell me if I'll get pregnant, or who I'll get pregnant by, or something to that effect. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, will I get pregnant by? And then they listed a name. I said, oh, okay. So and I like to educate people too, right? So I say, oh, actually, that's a
Mhm.
great question. But here on my channel, like, I don't read on medical and I don't read on third party. And this is what that means. And this is why I don't do that. And they were like, oh, okay, I understand. Like, they were totally cool about it.
Mhm. They
Um,
just need a little bit of education. And
totally.
Sandy just says, yeah, that was a good one. So other people are seeing that as well. These are conversations that are important and need to be had.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. They are. And Renee, Intuitive Renee, she has a channel, was in the chat, and she mentioned, hey, it would be really cool, Ange, if you start a hashtag tarot ethics. I was like, ooh, let's do it. I thought it would be fun to invite people on my channel as a panel. So
Hmm.
instead of doing readings, sometimes I just like to chat. I love readings, obviously, but sometimes I just like to
Yes.
chat. Like, that's why I was so excited when you invited me. Let's just chat. Let's just flow with it. Let's just see what happens. And look at how many different discussions we've had today. It's been fun. Um, but it'd be cool to get an array of people on panel to talk about how they read and what their ethics are, because it's going to differ from person to person. Um, I've noticed, though, that I've naturally graduated towards people who don't read third party. Not that I'm against third party readings. Trust me, there's many readers that do it, but it just feels, I don't know, it just feels good for me, because well, of my values, morals, and ethics around readings and what I'm tapping into. And like we were explaining yesterday on the live, how it just doesn't feel right when I'm tapping into someone's energy that I don't have permission to do so. It feels icky.
Yes. I always put myself, I tend to be very empathetic. And there you are. You froze for just a minute. And I
was
thought,
gonna say,
oh, maybe she had the power glitch. So I'll just keep talking until she comes back.
I saw the black screen. I was like, hello. Sorry about that.
I was on a rant and now I don't even know what I was talking about. That's
the
hilarious.
black screen messed us up there. What the heck?
Yeah, it froze for just a minute, but that's okay. I'm glad.
We're talking about tarot ethics and how reading third party and it doesn't feel good because tapping into people's energy, feels ick.
Yes, so that's what I was gonna say, that I'm a very empathetic person, and for me, I put myself in those shoes. How would I feel if I knew that somebody was tapping into my energy, asking questions about me without asking me, hey, is this okay? Like it feels almost like an invasion of privacy. Yeah. So I believe very much that we always have to form a safe space and a bubble of protection around us. I always I have my spiritual tools, like any good magician, I have my spiritual tools all around me for protection purposes. I'm wearing obsidian right now, but I keep it like very close to me. I have my wand, and I always after I do any type of energy work, I use it to cut any kind of energetic ties or cords that are attached to me for that reason, because you just don't know. Not everyone has the same intention that you have when you do these for other people. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's another really good topic, energetic protection. And so, what we do, reading, this is energy work. Like that's what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and energy work is very draining. So part of my practice when I protect is to keep my energy and my vibe high as I mean, eventually you're going to kind of drain out, and that's when you need to know when it's time to call it quits. But most importantly, like before we started this live, I have my thing. I have my hand drum and I was drumming. I have my singing bowl and I do that. And I have a saying that I do every time before I go live. I light my prayer candle. I always have one of those nearby. And I always have my labradorite. I don't know if you can see this.
I see.
But anyways, it's a big
if you
chunk.
hold it a certain way, it gives you a cool flash.
Yes. I mean, even the whole time we've been talking, it's been down here and I've been hanging on to it. It gives me, because I agree that you set intentions with your tools too, right? Like, yes, labradorite can mean this, that, and the other thing. But for me, like it opens up my third eye. It allows me to gain clarity, in my speech and what I'm going to share. Cause sometimes I get nervous. I still get nervous. I don't care. Like I've had this channel for so long, it doesn't matter. Every time I push record, whether it's live or recorded, I get nervous. And I always tell people that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That means that you care about what you're going to share and you're passionate about what you do. And it just shows that you're that sort of kind of a person, like you said, empathetic and things like that. So I that's one of the things I have. And then I had a friend send me this third eye, or what is this called, evil eye thing.
Oh my
and so
gosh.
I always have this is always on my reading table because it protects from any of that nonsense energy that may enter.
I keep one right by my webcam always, because you never know. Like in this day and age, we do a lot of virtual calls with a ton of different people, and you don't know what kind of energy they're sending. So I always keep one right by my webcam for that very reason.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I received that in the mail, actually it was from Simon at the Hermit's Cave. I won a
Mm.
giveaway from him and he sent that in the package and I thought that was so, and so it just for me it's like extra special because it's from him too because
I
he was
wear
one.
one on my wrist too.
Oh, yes. Nice. I definitely have some in my charm bowl. One for sure. I think maybe two that are in there. Sometimes they come out. But it's also in there for protection of my charms, with my selenite
Yes.
wand and
I
yeah, so
think I
it's
have like the Hamza. I
yes.
think I have that one in my
Yes.
charm set.
I have that in there too. Um yeah, so it's just really neat to know people's different ethics of how they read tarot, how they're willing to dive into the questions, and also the practices that we have in terms of protection and what we do. So I would be really interested to have this discussion with more people. And there's some practices that are private, and I respect that. There's certain things that I say and do behind the scenes that I wouldn't share publicly because it's part of your web of protection is what I call it, right? And like I put the bubble up around myself and I put it up around the channel. Anytime I go live, I always click on the YouTube channel, which in this case today was yours. I always put it up and the thumbnail showing and everything, and I always do like a protection around the channel, around the people in chat, so that you're creating this environment that's peaceful and welcoming. And
Mm.
I strive really hard for that on my channel, and I will do anything to maintain that, to maintain that boundary. So I think it's important, when we're putting things out here for public consumption, that you energetically take responsibility for what you're putting out there and for what others are adding to it as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to join in on any of those discussions
Yeah.
because, like you say, yes, it is fun to read for other people. It's a great chance to practice different skills and to flex your intuition. But I don't want to just read, I want to be able to do a variety of different things. And I
Hmm.
get a lot of enjoyment from doing that. I love VRs. I do a lot of VRs. I
Yes.
like to do deck flip throughs, but I want to do them and I want to interject my thoughts and my my opinions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it has to be a deck that I really connect with, that I'm looking forward to working with, so I can feel that I have something to share. And I often get comments like that, like, "Oh, you caught something or you picked up something that I've been using that deck forever and never noticed that or never thought about that." So,
Exactly.
yeah, and I love to do, journaling
Hmm.
videos, all the different things. So I love the variety. And so for today, I definitely wanted to keep it open. Of course, if
Yeah.
somebody came in and they wanted a reading, I'm open to that. But it was more about having the space to have a conversation and just kind of relax and chill and,
Yeah.
and just let it flow however it was meant to be.
I appreciate that. I really do because
Mhm.
I mean, I think in between, like, usually, like when we go live, like there's a topic or like we're going to read, and like in between there, we have like these little side conversations, which is cool. But like to have a whole live where we can just sit and just talk about whatever, like I think, yeah, it's really cool. I've really enjoyed this, and it's really allowed us to explore so many different topics in such a short amount of time. And look, we've already got ideas for some things that we want to cover. The Hermit
Yes.
card, and we're going to talk about tarot ethics. We're going to talk about energy protection and how we do that. And I
Mhm.
think this is cool. And I know that there's definitely others in the community that will be interested as well. I would love to get different perspectives. Um, I think one of the most fascinating things is our lens of perception and how we view things. Like you said, like you might look through a deck and see something completely different than somebody else. The way that you read, the way that you interpret, the card meanings together. I just the whole thing. I'm such a nerd when it comes to all of that and connecting the dots and interconnectedness and the tarot and oracle and charms. It really allows for so much fluidity and depth in terms of what it could mean and what it means to someone else. And so, yeah, I can't get enough of this stuff, and it feels good to have a community of people online that we can share these things with because I think I can speak for you as well. Like our kids are like, okay, like you know, and I'm like, well,
Oh,
oh, but look at the Beetlejuice deck, like it, and they're like, Mom. I'm like,
yes.
okay, fine,
My kids
whatever.
are done with me, and I always say they'll disown me if I talk about tarot one more time.
Yes, I
Or
know.
or like the other day, I called my son, "Come quick! Two birds are fighting. Like, what does it mean?" And he was just like,
I know. Sometimes my kids are like, Mom, not everything has to have a meaning. I'm like, but it could,
"It
you know, I'm
does.
just saying.
It totally does. Like, why would they pick this backyard to have a fight? They could have gone anywhere. But they chose here. Like, I have to be involved."
That's right. That's right.
And
Sorry, kids, you
that's
gotta
the
woo Mom. Oh
emperor,
well.
the emperor in me. Like, I have to be there to make sure that, that they're not fighting over, the territory and what's the right choice, what's fair for the birds. Are they fighting over the nest? Is it a branch? What's going
Yeah.
on? So yeah, he's always like, whatever, I'm done.
I know, I know. When there's other decks that come into the house or like, you know, different charms, we're like, Mom, do you really need more? I'm like, well, not really, but look what I got. They're like, I don't care. Well, my friends online will care, so whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Aw. Well, I know we've been on for about like an hour, looks like an hour and 40 minutes. I know you have some obligations after our chat. So what do you think? Maybe we should pull a card before we end, and I don't know, close out. I always like to close out the practice. Whatever I'm doing, close it out
Yeah,
with a card.
yeah. That sounds
So
good. Yeah.
hopefully
Okay, cool. Do you want to pull like a tarot card or an oracle card? I mean, you know, me over here.
I just grabbed my Oracle deck. That's what's feeling good right now. That's what's feeling good to me right now. So I don't
Okay.
know. After I pull out my Oracle deck, I may decide, hey, I need a tarot card too.
Okay. I've got right in front of me is one of my favorite decks that I've been using, and it's the Earth Woman Tarot. So I'm gonna
And
what?
oh, that deck. I was obsessed. I've been obsessed with her artwork forever and ever,
Oh, Tarn
right?
Ellis? Yeah.
Yes, I followed her on social media and I always thought to myself, gosh, I wish she would make a tarot deck. Gosh, I wish she would make a tarot deck. And then, I took a break from tarot. Imagine my delight when I came back and discovered she has the deck. So, of course, I'm getting it. Of course, I'm getting it. Oh, I can't even wait. I was,
I I have used this so much that I don't think it's going to show up on camera, but I love the cardstock. It's not too thick, it's not too thin. It like slides nice. I think the edges are kind of beat up a little bit. Let's see if we can pick it up. Yeah, a little bit. There you go. But I don't care. It's one of those decks that the more you use it, it's like a pair of shoes, you know, it just sort of really fits nicely. It
mm,
feels really good, and gosh, I just really connect with the artwork. I mean, the earthiness of it, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to you getting it. That's so cool that I didn't realize that you
that's so funny. Yes, that is going to be one of the first ones. I don't know, somehow, the universe got in my way and I ordered the Tarot of Oneness before I did anything else. But yes, that was meant to be the first deck that I
yeah,
would purchase after all this time. And
that's another one that's always by my side is the Tarot of Oneness. I love
uh,
that one as well. Oh
so
my gosh. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna tap into the collective energy and see what card we'll pull and the connection between the card you pull and I pull. That'd be really cool. We'll pull a charm too, but right, here we go. This is it. The Ace of Cups.
Oh, let me make you big. Nope.
Oh, to move me over, just put your mouse on my little square and drag it over.
Ah,
There you
there
go.
we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. It took me
Oh,
forever
that's
to figure that out.
beautiful.
So the Ace of Cups, I mean, really the energy we were just talking about, like an overflow of abundance and ideas and sharing and connecting and the emotional aspect in terms of being empathetic and having all of these different connections. Like look at all the different streams um, of consciousness there that's flowing out of the cup. And we've got the bird, like we were talking about, the bird world is connected to us as well. Um, and Ace of Cups too for me is about opening up, about allowing ourselves to be seen, about stepping fully into who we are and not being afraid of that. Even if emotions show. There's a couple times on the show itself that I got a little emotional, and that's okay. That's who I am. I don't want to hide that. I mean, I don't want to like lose it and start bawling on camera. Awkward. But when emotion shows up, I think it's okay. Just one thing that came to mind quickly is that when I was in the line of nursing work, um, I would get emotional for my patients, especially when I worked hospice. As you can imagine, people are dying. And when I would meet with family members when they pass, I shed tears with them. I wasn't unprofessional in losing myself in it because that would be weird. But I thought that was just a respectful thing to do, and it was just a natural thing for me to do. I've had some bosses come to me and tell me that's not professional. I've had family members come to me and thank me for being real. And so I just went with what felt right for me and what the family members were saying to me. And so just I think that's just a message of like just be yourself, let yourself flow in whatever direction that means with your channel of who you are, who you connect with, you know. Yeah. So what card did you get?
Well, I pulled a card from an oracle deck that I actually really like, and it's the word. I don't know if it's word or weird of Sarah Howard,
Oh yeah. Okay. The weird. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Is it weird? Yeah. So this is by Gabby Angus West. I've never
Hmm.
had any of her artwork before, and the deck is gorgeous, and it's so like compact. And here, let me flip this around.
There we
Okay.
go.
Card backs are so cute. But this is a great deck. It's like almost like a playing card style. And I pulled a card that I was like, I've never seen that card. Where are the playing card associations? It doesn't have any. It turns out it's an extra card. So let me put it up here.
Oh, okay.
Look at that face.
Wow. Like looks like she's emerging from this, right? She's coming out of that
Mhm.
water like that. Oh,
Yes.
wow.
So, and then I'm going to read what the card says
Okay.
because as soon as I read it, I was like, what does this mean? And then 30 seconds later, I was like, oh, you pulled out all the stops, but today you were not connected. You pulled out all the stops, but today you were not connected. And so I'll read what the guidebook says.
Yeah.
You're not feeling the reading today, not streaming from the source. Your muse has deserted you when you have plans to work together. You came, you tried, nothing. You get that today, if nothing else. And I feel like this is such a great reminder because this happens sometimes. And when it does, you have to allow yourself grace because not always is every single reading gonna be like, oh my God, that resonates on a whole other level. That's not
That's
always gonna
right.
happen. And
Nope.
sometimes you do a reading. I'll just say this. Sometimes you do a reading for someone and they don't take it the way that you hoped, right? When we do readings for people, we do it from the best place of, in our hearts in
Hmm.
order to kind of share those messages. And some people don't take it that way, and that's okay,
Yep. That's right.
right? That's okay. So the other card I pulled, the
Ooh.
Ellis deck. This is the King of Rods.
King of Wands.
And I just feel like this is a reminder, even on those days where things are not working, you feel like I'm trying to do everything right. Nothing's working out. I don't understand what's going on. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Remember your power. Stay in your power.
Yeah, yeah.
This particular king is always very charismatic. I feel like this king is never gonna let anyone else see them sweat. They're not gonna sweat the small stuff. They're gonna laugh it off, let it roll off their, ha ha ha, and that's
Right.
important to remember, like, especially for us where we are sometimes doing these live streams and putting ourselves out there and showing a very vulnerable part of ourselves. A good reminder to, remember what you're doing, the reason why you're doing what you're doing, and
Yes.
stay strong, stay in your power. Don't be ashamed, because it's
I
not
love
always
that.
going to be a takeaway. There's not always going to be a takeaway for every single person. And sometimes there is a takeaway. They may just not want to accept it at that moment in time. And they'll come back later and be
Yep.
like, oh, I thought about what you just, I have people like that in my day-to-day life,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
you say something and they're just like me, and then a few days later, oh, I thought about what you said, and oh, okay.
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Exactly. That's
so
very
yeah.
important. Very important message. Yeah, and that King of Wands, like very, and it's, you being the fire sign as well. I
Hmm.
I really see that you are embracing that energy. We've only known each other for a very short amount of time, but I already feel like you're already sort of stepping into your confidence and your power in a way that you haven't allowed yourself to before. I mean, like you said, putting ourselves out here is very vulnerable. But I find that the more life experience we have, and you and I were fairly close in age. So I find that as we get older, it's no big deal to share certain things. As a matter of fact, I think people want more of that, right? They want more
Hmm.
authenticity. Now, having said that, there's obviously stuff that's not for public consumption, and that is cool. And there are certain things that shouldn't be. But, you know, there are these sort of life experiences, and you can weave them in a way where, um, you're not bearing all the juicy details. You can just sort of generalize the message and still share it in that way. And
Hmm.
um, anyway, the King of Wands reminds me of that, right? Like, there's power in vulnerability. There's power in standing your ground and who you are, and really just owning that. And like you said, it's okay if some days you don't feel like the King of Wands, quite frankly, right? Sometimes you're still floundering around like the Page of Wands, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yes, in terms of the readings, there are a lot of times, right, that you'll do the reading and you're like, hey, did that resonate? And they're like, well, yeah, parts of it or whatever. And I always tell people that's cool. Like, write it down and then revisit it, and it might resonate with you further down the line, you know and like you said too, like not every part of the reading maybe will resonate, right? It's just sort of how we've packaged the reading and delivered it, and whatever keynote is meant to hit will, um and then I just wanted to share that I didn't realize this till I just looked down. I usually always try to look at the bottom of the deck energy, and
Hmm.
staring at me is the Hermit.
Oh. Wow, that's awesome.
I mean, of course it is, right? so
Yeah. Oh my
um
gosh.
so there we go, full circle.
Yeah, for
um
sure. Oh,
But
look, Topaz Justice Flame um, entered the chat and says, "Good day, ladies."
oh, Christopher, hello.
6:47 in Chile in Sunbury.
Oh,
Yikes.
yeah, it's chilly here too. It's very chilly. It's good to see you, Christopher. Thank you. We're just wrapping up. It's been a
Hmm.
great conversation. Thank you so much for hosting this, for doing this, for being um courageous enough to put yourself out here and figure out the StreamYard stuff, and being willing to to do that. I think that's really,
Mm.
really cool. Again, I think you're going to get a lot of use out of this tool. I just wanted to say, Sandy said another lasagna. No, the lasagna last night was very, very good, but oh my gosh, it was so filling.
I
And
wanted that lasagna. I
we have 2
wanted that
pieces still
lasagna.
left in the fridge.
I'll be
I'm
right over.
surprised there's anything left, because usually with the teenagers, they're taking like big hunkin' chunks. Like, holy cow, how can you eat that
Mhm.
much? But anyway, it's been a lot of fun. I do have to go pick my son up, I believe.
Mhm.
Well, I'm actually waiting for his text. So whenever he texts, because you know how that is. Sometimes we have to be the taxi mom.
Yes.
Um, and he's having his girlfriend over tonight, so I want to tidy up a little bit. You know how it is when you have company.
Mhm.
And yeah, we're gonna have butter chicken tonight over a bed of rice. So I'm excited about that. I love food. I talk about food all the time.
Mm.
Um,
We skipped Taco Tuesday, so we're doing tacos tonight.
I love tacos. Oh my gosh. Beef or
Mhm.
chicken?
Turkey actually.
Turkey. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm. We use ground
oh,
turkey. Yep.
I don't think I've
Mhm.
ever tried that. That's interesting. Very interesting.
Mhm.
So, alrighty. Well,
Awesome.
thank you so
Thank
much
you
again.
so much. Yes, thank you for joining us, and thank you for those that got to drop in, and thank you to the people that will watch in the replay. I appreciate all of you, and I
Mhm.
hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.